Yeah, that American team looks pretty good, huh? This is going to be some fun, this tournament. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. United States 6, Finland 1. Some of you will get this and some of you won't, but you can almost hear Herb Brooks shouting out, "To your graves! You'll take it to your blanking graves!" Except that the state of American hockey is nowhere near, and this is in a good sense, what it was way back in 1980 when a miracle, a legitimate miracle, was required to take gold in Lake Placid. Before the game last night, and this was captured by the extraordinary access being offered to the rights-holding networks, in this case ESPN. Before the game, Mike Sullivan gave a speech to his players in which he challenged them to show that American swagger. And that caught a lot of attention even before the puck was dropped last night. It came up a time or two, as one might expect during the broadcast itself. And afterward, our Taylor Haas of DK Pittsburgh Sports, reporting for us up in Montreal, asked Sullivan what he was going for there.
Mike, we saw you talking before the game about the need to bring American swagger. Just what does that mean to you, and do you feel like you brought that tonight?
Yeah, I just think it's a certain attitude that it takes to win. And, we've got a competitive group. I think there's a lot of talented teams, and we talked from day one about the importance of bringing a certain attitude and the importance of becoming a team, and that talent alone isn't going to win this thing. And so that was just something that we were trying to reiterate to our guys. And there's a certain pride in being an American, and I think there's a certain attitude and a certain swagger that we can bring to the game that is reflective of maybe the attributes that we've all learned from our older generations.
The term swagger is anything but new to Sullivan. He actually uses it quite a bit with the Penguins, both with the players themselves and then when talking about them in press gatherings. He sees when a team is feeling like its best self. And he understands, as he'd further express in this same pregame meeting with the players, that this tournament is just crazy short. The amount of time that they have for preparation, let alone camaraderie and spiritual energy or whatever, is just so limited. Before you know it, the thing's going to be over in a handful of days. So one of the things he urged them to do against the Finns was to don't have any sort of feeling out period. Don't go through the motions early to see what this is going to be like or how fast is this, or even worrying what type of approach the opponent might take. The Finns are pretty predictable in that regard anyway. So just go out there, just play and just have fun, but show who's boss. Now, it took a little while, but it came. And by the time the third period rolled around, well, some combination of American aggressiveness and Jussi Saros just falling apart turned what had been a fairly tight game into a blowout. But I'm here to tell you, not just because the guy's coached the local team for a long time, and I've made no secret of my respect for the job that he's done, but also because he did a pretty nice job last night. Who knows how much or how little words like that would have meaning. But you know what does have meaning? When you go into the game aware that it's a short tournament, meaning from the coaching perspective, and I'm going to presume that he and John Tortorella and everyone else with the program would have had built-in plug-and-play Plan B assignments if Plan A didn't look like it was going well. You can't wait. You can't say, well, we're going to give this line a couple of weeks to see what they've got. One of those plan Bs was to put Jack Eichel between both Tkachuk brothers, and that went pretty well. So, here's a hearty hats off to the head coach. He has not had a smooth go of it in Pittsburgh for quite some time. He might have a really rough rest of the tournament, but he sure didn't last night in Montreal. And I would say here, as a kind of an by the way, that the one mistake that he might have had is not pushing hard enough to have Brian Rust on the roster, except that the one guy that I wanted to kick off the roster to make room for Rust was Matt Boldy, who was actually really outstanding last night. Set up the Americans' first goal, scored the Americans' second goal. So what do I know about anything? When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from David, who asks, DK, I hope someone from the Fenway Sports Group was watching the Canada-Sweden game and saw how important Mario Lemieux is to hockey fans in general, and even more so in Pittsburgh. One of their main priorities needs to be mending fences with him and getting him back involved with the Penguins in some visible way. David, this was a common question, or even just sometimes random commentary, that was sent in this direction after that event. And I get that. I do. Back when the team was sold, I was cringing through about at least half of everything that I was hearing, but never more so than when it became known that FSG and Mario/Ron Burkle had a disagreement over the way some minority investors were handled, and that Mario was upset about it. And then from there, that Mario wasn't around PPG Paints Arena. Now, I've shared what I'm about to say previously, but it feels like a good time to reinforce it. That storyline really isn't in play anymore. It just isn't. I've now been told this by people on both sides of what that equation was. And I've also been told that there have been some real signs of this thaw if you just look for them. For example, Mario had his fantasy camp, which is a real big deal for both him and the Lemieux Foundation. And he had the same percentage of that camp at PPG Paints Arena as it had ever been in the past. This was last year. He also was at the arena, right there on the ice, right there in full uniform, well, a full sweater, for the Jaromir Jagr jersey retirement ceremony. Now, you can say, and I can say, well, of course he did that. It was Jagr, and he was the one who had said back when he was owner that Jagr absolutely was going to have his number retired someday. But if you know anything about Mario off the ice, you will know that he doesn't take kindly to anybody messing with his money. And if there had still been some sort of significant issue, he wouldn't have shown up there at all. Just take my word for that. So you go on to ask in your question, what does FSG need to do to get him back? And you're not going to. Mario is, how was this worded to me recently? He is loving life. He is not hanging around rinks because he'd hung around rinks his entire existence. He is jet-setting around. He's golfing. He's drinking his wine. I'm making it sound like he's about to be getting fed grapes or something, but he's done really well for himself, and he's earned that. When he and Burkle owned the team, he felt a genuine responsibility to show himself as the team steward. So he was there. He was in that box with Natalie and Pierre LaRouche and that whole Mario gang, and he was involved. This was his job. This was his team. Well, that's not the case anymore. And as much as he has not moved on, obviously, from Pittsburgh or any of the foundation's amazing initiatives, he is most definitely not the owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins anymore. So don't think of this as a boycott on his part or anything else. It's just not that. Not now. I appreciate the question. I appreciate why you asked it. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these on Monday.